It's time for To the Max Sports, where we talk about sports. They're just two guys, Max and Drew, in a bar talking all things sports. Well, without the bar. And the beer. Wait, why aren't we in the bar?
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Max Sports. You all know what time it is. It's time for To the Max Sports, coming to you live from the Flying Whipper Production Studios.
Yeah, I'm having some non-bread.
Just a cannonball shot away from the Alamo. How are you today, Brother Bob?
I'm doing pretty good.
That unseen, caustic, pithy voice you heard in the background is Brother Bob, producer extraordinaire and co-host.
Yeah, and the wonderful. I enjoyed the Eclipse this weekend or this week.
Yeah, we went out.
I enjoyed the fact that nobody could see it.
Well, we went out to the hill country and actually caught a glimpse, and it was pretty cool, I have to admit.
Did you have the right glasses and everything?
Wore the glasses, did the whole thing. I can say I did it.
How crowded was it up there? Was it
not bad?
Really?
I think the clouds scared everybody away, but I got to see through the breaks of the clouds the eclipse. Part of it, pretty cool.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about women's college basketball, the finals.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the men's finals.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to talk about what I consider to be one of the most exciting players in baseball right now. We'll talk a little Spurs talk. But first, breaking news. OJ SImpson passed away this morning.
Okay. Yay.
Thoughts? Where were you? You know, there's iconic moments in the American experience. You know, where were you? I still remember where I was. The chase.
I don't remember the chase all that much. I don't think I watched it live. I saw it on the news. I watched a little bit of the trial live.
Yeah, the trial was very fascinating.
But I don't know. I even forget when all that was. What year that was?
1994. Can you believe 30 years ago this summer?
Okay.
I was a young man then. Now I'm an old man.
Well, and OJ SImpson is not a man anymore.
No, I just remember at the time, it was just, you know, when you go back and look at the old footage, this was before the days of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And to see all those people lined out on the highways,
oh, yeah,
you know, real time. And again, granted, this was before really, unless you had a cell phone that was the size of the nuclear code box the president carries around, there were none. And the streets and highways were lined with people just to catch a glimpse of the juice, you know, this iconic, ubiquitous sports figure that, you know, kind of transcended sports with his commercials and TV.
And cheering him on. That was kind of the thing for me that I was one of those early part of my life's examples of if you're famous, if you have celebrity, people will believe you can do no wrong.
Yeah. But again, this was before the trial and a lot of the information had come out. Granted you that.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
You know, there's still iconic lines that we'll never forget.
Yeah.
The unwanted house guest, Cato.
Yeah, and it was, what was the mini-series a few years ago, which actually laid out, there was, even if that glove had fit on the night of, it wasn't going to fit in the courtroom ever.
Yeah.
And the Cochran and his team knew that.
We know you got to think about some of the stupidest things, and you could just see the look. And I pretty much watched it gavel to gavel. I was fascinated with the whole thing, the lawyers, you know, the evidence presented. But, you know, you could just see Marcia Clark's face when her colleague, Christopher, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But he had OJ put on the glove. And I'm like, why? What is the reason to have OJ? And then OJ sitting there, you know.
That whole thing, it's another example of you get a different justice system if you have money. I mean, the budget that OJ spent on that defense team was probably greater than the annual budget of many countries.
We're just watching them flip the case from a murder trial to a putting the police on trial. Now, granted, I think that obviously most sane, rational people realize that pretty good chance OJ did it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, you had to look, you just come off the Watts riots.
Mm-hmm.
You had a social justice system that, let's quite be fair, back in the 50s, 40s, or 60s, there were black men getting lynched for looking at white women in the South. So I think it may have been more of a case of, this is our chance to say, for all the injustices that preceded the OJ, that, yeah, he's probably guilty, but this is our chance to right
and
probably a half century of wrongs.
And yeah, but his defense team playing up the race card when OJ himself didn't play the race card like that. So they went through on the jury visit to his mansion, they went through and wiped and basically put up and made it look like he was, I don't know if this is an offensive term, blacker than he was.
True.
And so that defense team earned every cent that they were paid.
They found their man acquitted, and that's why if you get good lawyers, they can find good angles and get you out of some difficult jams.
Do you know who needs a good lawyer? Mipe. Otani's interpreter. Looks like he's going to take a plea deal.
Yeah, the feds say he stole over $16 million worth of Otani's money. And what's amazing is to be so rich
that you don't notice.
So rich, they'll go and a guy took $16 million, and he basically has to come to you and say, "I've been stealing from you. Will you pay off the debt?"
Just crazy.
It is crazy.
So yeah. OJ's gone, and that's a little bit of history. So I didn't tell you this when you came in. Talking about old timers. I got a chance to see Vern Lundquist and Terry Bradshaw on Friday night.
Tell me about
Talking about some old timers. They talked about the Fog Bowl game.
Of course, Vern Lundquist being one of the most incredible sportscasters of our generation.
Iconic voice. And as I was watching, and you could just close your eyes and just hear that voice. And they talked about the Fog Bowl game.
I'm so old, I still remember the Fog Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just for what we're talking about. I think it was at Soldier Field.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who the Bears were playing that
Eagles.
day. The Eagles. You had the whole Buddy Ryan. Wasn't he coaching the Eagles at that time?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and just out of the blue, probably the second quarter, this fog rolls in out of nowhere.
And and Lundquist says when they took a cab to O'Hare to fly out, once you got out of downtown, he said it was clear as a bell.
Yeah.
Clear as a bell. The funnier story was Bradshaw basically kind of denigrating himself and his ability to recall. He's like, I didn't learn names and numbers. And he talks about this story that he made up a player during the first season he was on, a defensive player on special teams.
Who does he think he is, Tony Romo?
Well, his point was nobody cares about anybody on the kickoff except for the kicker and the receiver and the returner. You don't know any of the other players. And he said, if they were good enough, they'd be starters, but they're not. So you don't care. So he made up this player the whole entire season, and it was Willie Anderson from Colby College in Maine, and the producer calls Colby College late in the season, and Colby College SID is like, what are you guys doing at CBS Sports? Because I'm getting calls, and we don't know who this guy is.
That's actually a pretty funny story.
So Bradshaw, I haven't been a real big, huge fan of him on TV on the pre-show, but he's a very engaging and funny man.
Yeah, the show got a little too theatrical for me, a little too cute, and everybody kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, so
but I'm not a big fan of that Sunday sports show.
So it was a good evening that I got to spend. So did you watch any of the women's game, the Caitlin Clark game?
It's funny. I was sitting in a local brewery having some adult libations, whatever you say, whatever that word is. And I looked up, and Iowa, there's, 2 minutes to play, and they're down by 5 or 6.
Well, yeah.
And I look back up and they're interviewing Caitlin. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, okay, they won. How'd they pull that off?
Nope.
I did not see the last 2 minutes.
They really weren't in the game all that much. I mean, they did make a run. They were in the game in the first quarter. Caitlin came out well
I
in the first quarter.
apologize. I'm talking about the game that got them to the finals.
Oh, oh.
My apologies.
Yeah, Iowa,
Yeah, when they came back with
UConn.
But no, I did not see the finals. My apologies.
18.7 million of people watched the
they beat the
finals
men's,
game.
I heard.
Beat the men's by a fair amount. In fact, I am wondering as we roll into the NBA postseason, is any NBA postseason game going to great more people than that?
You know, that's who was broadcasting the Iowa-Alabama game?
I don't know.
I think it was a major. You know, it's so fragmented now with basketball and Peacock and all this. Probably not. And there's not a storyline like that one. Alabama deservedly won, being undefeated. Great team.
Oh, you mean South Carolina?
Or South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina.
And I'm all
Staley.
like I said,
South
I didn't
Carolina.
watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. Caitlin's going to come out and play for the Indiana Fever, and the word on the street is that about 75% of their games are going to be nationally televised. So it's going to be interesting.
Should be an interesting storyline.
It's going to be interesting. And then Zach Edey's going to probably ride the pine somewhere on a G League or development squad. He ain't playing. I mean, he'll get drafted probably in the second or third round, but I don't think he's going to be a force in the NBA.
He'll be a top 12 pick.
Really?
I think so.
I'd put money that he won't be. I mean, I don't think he deserves to be a top 12
I'll
pick.
bet you a beverage on that. His height alone will enamor some people.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we forget that big men have problems over the long term.
But his numbers, I mean, he set some NCAA records for points scored,
Okay.
and I mean, yeah, he'll actually probably be top 10.
Okay.
Now, how well he'll do is another story. I just don't see him being impactful just because his transitional defense is really bad.
He's slow. His feet are slow.
But he put up some numbers that are up there with some of the best.
Good for him. Good for him.
And he was a fifth-year guy.
Yeah.
So he's got that under his belt. Well, you were right. You called Connecticut in your
me and like
your
everybody
bracket.
else.
But, hey, I didn't.
It was the one team I had in the Final Four.
But you had him winning it. And they did.
And none of those UConn games were close. None of them
I think they had the biggest
close.
margin of victory by a long shot.
And this margin of victory that they had in the tournament this year was worse. Well, worse for everybody else than last year's. I don't think they won by less than 10 in any of their games.
Yeah, they clearly dominated, and they're so deep and so talented, and their coach has already said, hey, I'm here to build a John Wooden type dynasty. So
He has. It's 6 national championships in the last 25 years?
and something about the Hurleys.
Something about UConn entirely.
Well, when they went back to Bobby Hurley winning and his brother and so on and so forth, every national championship they played in, they've won. So
Yeah.
the Hurleys are on quite a run.
And there's something in the water up in Connecticut. And with Tara Vanderveer from Stanford retiring, Gino Auriemma is going to eclipse her next season for most wins by an NCAA basketball coach. So, yeah, it's
Something in the basketball waters.
Something in the water.
Stick around. Me and Bob are going to do our sports knowledge trivia, rules of the game.
Yeah, okay.
You should be able to beat us.
Yes.
We're pretty bad.
Yes, we are.
And we could even cheat. I think we could cheat and still be bad at this. Stick around for that. Bob, have you had a chance to watch much Major League Baseball so far this season?
Not really. Not really.
A couple of surprises. The Astros not doing well. The Yankees doing surprisingly well.
Yankees should do well. I mean,
They get the payroll.
they have a payroll.
There's probably a guy that will be playing for the Yankees or Astros after the The Reds farm him off after not being able to afford him. If you get a chance, watch this young man. I said last year, I mentioned his name a few times. A guy named Ellie Dela Cruz.
Okay.
Plays shortstop for the Reds. Not your daddy's shortstop. This guy's 6'4", 190 pounds, and is doing Wemby-like things on the baseball field. Really fun player to watch. I know he's got one this year already. I think he had 4 or 5 last year inside the park home runs. Now, in today's shortened ball fields, which we can all say, pretty small compared to the fields of yesteryear, we don't have a lot of Polo Grounds baseball stadiums anymore. This guy's got 6 or 7 inside the park home runs.
That's amazing. Ohtani almost had an inside the park home run. He would have if he hadn't had a perfect throw. He was actually called safe, and then upon further review was found to be out.
Yeah.
But it was a perfect throw, perfect tag.
Well, this kid's kind of Ohtani-like exciting. I think this is his 6th career Major League inside the park, and this is going into his 2nd season.
Good for him.
I looked up the record last year. I think the record for Major League Baseball is like 14.
Wow.
So he's putting up some incredible numbers.
As long as he doesn't lose his wheels.
If you get a chance to watch this kid, he is super amazing. And as a Reds fan, lifelong, I get to at least watch him since he's on a major league
Rookie contract.
Get to watch him for at least 3 or 4 years.
So you're watching, excited for the Masters?
Masters is coming up. I will watch it. I'm sure that you've got your usual suspects as the favorites.
Yeah, Scotty Scheffler is
Scheffler
plus
has
460.
In the last 3 years, he's got like 25 top 20 finishes.
And he's always playing good at this time of the year, so it's almost, it could be a case of Scheffler versus the field, but just for the chaos of it, I'm kind of thinking a live golfer is going to win the Masters this year, whether it's Koepka, maybe Rahm, Joaquin, I forget his last name. Guy just got into the tournament by a special invitation.
Well, let's see one of the old guys make a run. I can't believe, God, I'm old. I'm saying old guys now, Mickelson and...
Well, Mickelson is old.
Woods.
It's going to be interesting to see if Woods... I think Woods is playing. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to sustain and hold for 2 rounds. He's kind of going for the record for most consecutive cuts made. So he's coming up on 25.
And he did say, humbly, I got a chance if I play well. Well, of course.
Yeah, that's Captain Obvious. Captain Obvious. I mean, what the one thing he has is he has institutional knowledge out the wazoo about Augusta.
Right.
He knows Augusta.
And these are ones that him and Mickelson, they live for. The tradition. I like the event before that, maybe today, the par 3 event.
Oh, the par 3 yesterday, yeah.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see it.
The one thing, I mean, it's just so schmaltzy and cute, and
it's okay.
What one of my friends said, it's so cute I just want to throw up. I didn't see if Jack showed up, but I saw a couple where one of the guys, Chubb, Australian, I think out of Melbourne, let his brother tee off on one of the on one of the, well, they're all par 3s, but tee off, and dude almost hold it.
That's awesome.
Almost hold it.
That's
he had
awesome.
some nice drawing about it. Hit the top of hit above the cup. Came back and just missed it by about a foot or 2.
Did anyone have a hole in one? I'm sure they did.
I am sure they did. I'm sure did.
Closest I ever came to a hole in one, Bob. True story. That far. Par 3. That far. Closest. Everything else from here to that wall.
Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare.
This is true. Well, let's see if we can get close to sports trivia, Bob.
Okay.
Play along at home. Leave a comment in the box. Always hit that like and subscribe. We like that. Bob, since we're doing golf,
okay,
and that's coming up, how about a golf question for Brother Bob?
Okay.
Here you go. Bob. A tee shot comes to rest near a sunbathing diamondback rattlesnake. which isn't out of the realm of possibilities living here in Texas. Does the player take relief without penalty, or must he hit the ball as it lies?
He must hit the ball as it lies. I would hope that someone would come up and remove said rattlesnake, but he must. I don't think a rattlesnake gives you relief.
Unfortunately, Bob, you would probably get bit. He may take relief without penalty, dropping the ball in the nearest spot, which is not dangerous, but not closer to the hole.
Who defines whether it's dangerous? Okay, I know a diamondback rattlesnake is pretty dangerous, but what if it's just a normal snake?
You know, it didn't.
What if it's a turtle? I mean, a snapping turtle can be dangerous.
What if it's an alligator?
And you know, if I'm his playing partner and I'm playing match play, I'm arguing whether that rattlesnake is dangerous or not. Maybe that rattlesnake was defanged.
You know, just being near me when I hit a tee shot is dangerous. I don't know if you've seen one of my duck hooks, but
no.
You know, I got a funny story. We had a guy, Jeff knows him, buddy of mine named Eddie, and he was one of these guys that the minute he hit a shot, he would jump into the car. Be damned if you had teed off yet. So he races up ahead of us because he's pissed off. Bad tee shot. Probably about 250 yards out to the left, underneath a bunch of pecan trees.
Okay.
Well, one of my buddies, Dennis, hits his tee shot as he's standing out there, and we're like, that's going to hit him. 4 nails him between the shoulders. I don't know if you've ever watched those old safari shows where they show a guy shooting a buffalo from about 200 yards out, and it's kind of a delayed shot, and the buffalo kind of that's exactly what he did. He was okay, so it's funny, but he gets hit. He kind of does a pirouette stagger and then just drops to the ground.
Well, at least it didn't hit his head.
Thank God. I've been hit from about 200 yards out in the buttocks. Thank God.
Okay.
And that hurt.
Okay. So I will ask you a golf question, and this also involves local wildlife.
And this will be for the win.
During stroke play, John removes an anthill on the green. Is there a penalty for this?
You can move loose impediments from the green. I don't believe an anthill is a loose impediment. So I believe he would actually be charged for moving an anthill.
I am going to give you credit for this answer just because you used the phrase loose impediment. But the answer is wrong. No, you are not penalized because the anthill is considered a loose impediment.
Well, impediment. And if you've seen an anthill, that's comprised of impediments. But for the brevity of the show, I will take your win.
Okay.
Although it's probably a cheesy win.
Well, I don't know. Let me see. Oh, okay. Actually, I'll ask you another question just for completeness' sake. This doesn't involve local wildlife.
If you got that answer at home, let us know in the comments.
If you can pronounce loose impediment. John hits a ball that goes into an underground drain pipe. I've
actually done that.
John cannot see it or retrieve it. Though I don't know why it says John cannot see it or retrieve it. If you can't see it, obviously you can't retrieve it. You can't retrieve something you can't see. Anyway, what is the correct ruling?
See, if you play with some of my friends, I would say that's part of the course, you know, tough luck. But I think because it is a structural object that you could actually play nearest point of relief from where it went in to the drainage.
You are correct, so you definitely win. The underground drain pipe is considered an obstruction. He may, without penalty, place a ball closest to the spot where it entered the drain pipe.
I played just enough golf to know the rules.
Yeah, you have to know the rules. You have to know the rules to know how to cheat.
You ain't trying if you ain't cheating.
No, yeah. No, you ain't cheat. Yeah, you ain't trying if you ain't cheating. Yeah, but that's a racing thing, man.
Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Bob, anything else?
No. It's been kind of an interesting week coming out of NCAA March Madness, and as we get back into, we have the Masters this weekend. We have NBA playoffs starting next week, hockey playoffs starting next week. Major League Baseball starts to finally get into a little bit of a swing, and I start to get a little bit interested. And spring football.
Some good stuff. We'll talk a little Spurs next week. We'll talk a little bit of the NBA playoffs, obviously.
And
we'll talk about who won the Masters. And don't forget, this is a big one. I'm going to bring Carlos. He's the NFL guru. We got the
NFL draft coming up.
Got the draft coming up.
For all you Cowboys fans, I am sorry your team is going to not do anything.
You heard it first from Brother Bob.
Hate the Cowboys.
Until next week. OH.
Peace out.
IO.